Hello everybody. This video is going to explain the basic functionality of FL Studio 10. So what I plan to do in here is get you started on all the basic features here in FL Studio, and hopefully by the end of this video you'll actually, instead of opening this program and seeing what the heck do I do here, it'll actually, make at least a little bit of sense. So we'll get started here with the main interface. Um, you'll see that here this thing says sampler with all the buttons here. This is your step sequencer, and you can open it by just hitting this button up here. You're going to be using this menu right here a lot. This is how you get to your playlist, your step sequencer, your piano roll, open and close your browser on the left, and your mixer. So first, to get started, we'll open our step sequencer, and we're going to throw a sound in there. And what I'm going to do here, I have some external sample packs here, so I'll just browse through here, and let's start off the bass drum sound. You just can click it to preview it, so you can find the one that you like. Let me mute MSN here. That's a good one. And so to load it up in here, all you have to do is just click and drag and hold it over to your button here, and now you've loaded that sound into your step sequencer. So all you have to do is just sequence a set of drums. And you'll notice that there are 16 buttons here. So there'll be 16. I'm not sure if they're measures or bars or whatever, but 16 in one full measure or something like that. And so we're just going to lay down to go every fourth. So that's your basic dance music bass drum line. There's just 4 on the floor, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have it there. Okay, so we got that all laid down here. Let me just throw in a compressor here. I'll explain this a little bit later. Let's go ahead and find it. Okay, so now we have a bass drum down. Let's go ahead and start adding a little bit more drums. So let's browse through the browser here. Look for some hats to add in here. That's good hi-hat sound. And with the typical dance, you have the hi-hat in between your bass drum here, so it goes toots, toots. Start adding a few more hats here. Just get a little creative with it, you're not going to be, able to just do this without listening like I am doing here, but, just keep, once you've been doing this for 8 years, it'll be like second nature. You also see these buttons here. This is your volume for each of the channels. So if you want to boost your bass drum, the one on the left is your panning. So if you want to pan it to the left or the right, you can go ahead and do that there. So I'm just going to adjust some volumes. I'll add in a clap here. Here's a good one. And with the typical dance, you'll have the clap on the second bass drum. So we got, a decent little drum line going here. It's very simple, but, it gets its point across. So now we're going to start by adding in some instruments rather than just sample drums, because just sample drums in a song wouldn't be much. So let's insert a channel. To insert a channel, you can do this with just about any instrument. You go to channels, then add one, and here's all your different synthesizers that you got in FL Studio. So You can, pick whichever one you want to give it a try. Also, if you want to, if instead of going up here to add a channel, you also can just right click on any of these buttons here, your instruments, and just right click and insert. That'll insert one below it. So go ahead and use a default FL Studio synth. Let's try, you can't go wrong with Citrus. So we're gonna get something out of here in Citrus. Every every synth has presets in FL Studio, as far to my knowledge. And to get to your presets here in Citrus, you just click this little arrow at the bottom or at the top, and go down to presets. What do you know? Look at all these fun presets for you to give a shot. So. There's a good one. So now you might be wondering, okay, so how do I get the sound actually sequenced? Well, what you do here is you right click on that instrument, you go over to your piano roll. So if you want to start laying down some notes, here's all your piano keyboard here, and this is your actual time, just like the step sequencer. So all you have to do here is just start having a little fun here and start throwing down some notes. You also can click on the keyboard to preview the sound. And you can change the length of them by going over to the end and just dragging it down to make it longer or shorter. So let's go ahead and start saving this. So we'll call it first loop. So we got a little bass line going on here. Very simple, but we're going to try and keep this as simple as possible so we don't overwhelm you. So now, if you want to add a little more backing there, let's insert another instrument. Let's go ahead and do Citrus is a good starter synth, since you get a lot of good presets out of it. So we'll do another Citrus. Let's add another bass just to kind of back that up a little bit. Oh, and also the fun thing about FL Studio is you can copy and paste between each piano roll. So you just do that, copy, go over to your other one, and paste, and there you go. It's in the other one now. You also can, select all and move them up an octave, because that's a little bit too low. Let's turn off Ghost Channel. Or, you can also use that as a reference so you can, change it a little bit. That way you don't have to keep peeking over at the other channel and make sure it stays consistent. So there's a little bit more there. And if we want to add, let's just say like a lead synth, I use 3x OSC or 3 by OSC, whatever you want to call it. I call it 3x OSC. I expect you know what I'm doing right now. I'm just going to make a little soft sound here. This is a little more advanced, so basically what I'm doing is just building a preset from scratch here, which isn't exactly necessary to start making music with FL Studio, but it definitely, you know, helps if you want to get a little more advanced with it. So we're working on A here, so we'll do. Usually takes me a while to get a melody going that I like, and I'm trying to do this as simply as possible without like using all the other tools that I use. So it's kind of hard doing it just by scratch, but so you're gonna be like, okay, that sounds cool, but that synth sounds a little bit, you know, like it needs a little extra punch. You know, it needs some effects on it, like some reverb or something. So you're probably asking, how do I go about, you know, adding effects to here? Well, that's where your mixer comes in. Let's go ahead and move the browser over here a little bit. So here's your mixer. Again, like I said earlier, you just use this bar up here to open that up. So we'll go ahead and put this synth here on a mixer channel. And to go about doing that, here's all your channels here. And to simply link it to that channel, I use Control L to link it. But you also can just right click and link selected channels to this track. Or another way is you can, on the plugin window here, you can just, you know, switch it like that. But I use Control L. I love hotkeys. They work the best for me. So you'll see that now this 3XOSC channel is linked to mixer track 1. So that means we can now add effects to this channel and this instrument only, unless we link anything else to that track. So you have 8 effects inserts here, and to insert an effect, you simply hit that little arrow there. Here's all your handy dandy effects. So to go about adding, let's say, a reverb, you just go to Fruity Reverb, and there you go. Got a reverb on that channel. So then you can, like, you know, tune all the reverb parameters, which I don't really need to explain because it's a little advanced, and you know, you can just learn it by messing and see what sounds right and what doesn't. Go ahead and solo that track. And you'll also, in time, you'll figure out like what effects sound best with what kind of sound you have, and you know how everything works. That just comes with time. So just experiment with different effects and see what works best. Add an equalizer here. we need to have a flanger, because flanger with super sauce sounds pretty awesome. And you know, just like any other thing, your effects have presets too, which you get to the same way by hitting this arrow here. Oh, see, we have a little bit of a conflict there because the bass drum was also linked to the first channel because it does that by default, so we'll take that off of there. So we'll do the same with our bass lines. So if you want to select them both at the same time, you see these little lights right here. You just hold Shift and click. And now I have them both selected, and I'll just go over to the mixer and link it. So now both of our bass lines are now on their own track. So I'll just mute them both here. You don't really want to use reverbs with basses. That's just kind of something I learned, because that'll just make your mix down totally muddy. But we'll, like, you know, boost up the bass on the EQ here. And also, if you don't want to turn on your instruments, you also have a metronome up here below the oscilloscope. Just click that. So I just changed up the bass a little bit, make it a little more interesting. So now let's do a little bit more of effects. I usually put all of my instruments on their own effects channels just to give me the most flexibility with effects on them. See the clap ceiling remains. Now it all has its own effects. So I just linked them all to their own effects channels. Do a little bit of equalizing in the mixer. I think I'm going to give the other bass its own mixer channel too, so I'll just link that. So now that's separated from that. And if you always want to change your instruments, you can just, or change your preset, you can just click on there and go back to your presets, and then I'll change this to the orbital. I love that preset. It makes a good bass line, especially for this pattern. And if you want to change a bunch at a time, you can select all by doing Control A, or go into your little selector here and selecting it. I do Control A though. And say you want to shorten it, you can just drag one if you have them all selected, and it'll change them all. Same with if you want to move them up or down. If you want to change the scale of how it changes, if that makes any sense, you can go to your this is quantization, I think. You can change how precisely it scales if you want a 1/6 of a step. Thing is, though, if you're really clumsy with your mouse like I am, you have a chance of, putting it slightly off beat. So what I do is just, just kind of step it once and change it back. So we have a little loop going on here. So now, well, you're probably asking me, okay, so we got, something that goes on for millions of years and it doesn't change at all. I want to make an actual song. So how do I go about doing that? Well, that's where your playlist comes in. Your playlist is a very handy tool. So what we're going to go about doing is separating this loop and each of these into their own playlist tracks. So we're going to go to our project picker here, and we're going to split these all into their own tracks. So we're going to separate these by, as I said earlier, selecting them, and we're going to cut them. You can use like the Windows hotkey Control X, or you can go to Edit and Cut. So now, where'd they go? Or now you can paste them over in your project picker to a new pattern, and then paste, and there we go. That's all soloed by itself, and we can name these by pressing F2 and naming it as drums. So now our drums and our kick drum and synths here are separated. So we're going to separate the kick into its own, put it into its new one, call it kick, paste it back in there, and we'll take out the lead synth by cutting that, putting it into its own, naming that 3x lead. And so we'll just name this last one for namesake as basslines. So now, to go about selecting them, to bring up this little menu, the project picker, I had trouble with it like on the FL10 update because it was totally different and I couldn't find a good way to open it. I have a little button on the left side of my mouse where I can press it and it brings it up. I really don't know any other ways to pull it up except for that. It's just by clicking that little side button on my mouse. So if your mouse doesn't have that, I'm really sorry, but I don't really know any other ways of doing that. It's a pretty new feature. So okay, so let's start laying down our stuff in the playlist. So this is your actual song. So let's lay down our kicks. Oh, and by the way, if you want to switch between pattern mode, which is what that endless loop was, you just go to the pattern mode next to the play button, but we're going to song mode because we want to make a little track here. So we'll go over to our bass lines and start putting those in. So there's a little pattern going on there. So we'll go back over to our basses and add those in again. Then I guess we'll have the drums come in after that little bass drop. And as always with anything else, you can select, copy, and then move your little indicator over here and paste. And then you can move that over. So you have a little song going on here. So congratulations if you're following me this far. There's a lot more to learn still though, so don't think you're the master yet just because you have, this. You have pretty much learned the very basics of FL Studio though. Your three big tools, or four, your piano roll, step sequencer, playlist, and mixer. You know those four things, that's your building blocks to get anything else done in FL Studio. your basic fundamentals. So now let's get a little more advanced. Like say we don't. Let's get more advanced with the playlist here. Say you want the lead here. You don't want it to start out, you know, as abruptly. Well, you can go over to your 3x OSC. Let's add a filter, and say you want it to sweep up when you have it coming in. Well, if you want to do that, you'll have to sequence it. You can't just do it like that and it'll be like that, because that would add a lot of conflict. So you right click it, you right click any knob that you want to automate and create an automation clip. So there you go, now you have an automation clip in FL Studio's playlist. So let's go ahead and move these little points down. This is like any motion tween in Flash. If you've ever used Flash before, you set at the points, or if you've done any video editing and you know if automated volumes or anything like that, this will be no different. So we have a little filter starting at the bottom. When the lead comes in, we have it going to the top. When it, you know, we have all this ready. So here we are. We'll just watch this knob. So we have a little sweep there. Pretty cool. So let's just copy and paste this over a little more. Say we want to add like a crash symbol or something. Just make a new pattern. Go to crash. Name it crash. Just so you know, you see what you're editing on here. So go to symbols. Let's find a good crash that we like. Oh, found a good one on the first try. So let's do just one, because we just want one going when it hits. So and you can also, you know, add it in at other spots. Let's add a few effects on the crash, because it's bothering me not having any on it. And a little reverb to make it, you know, a little more full. And say you want to put in some other drums, you don't have them linked to this pattern here. You can just put them in its own separate. Like, see, we want to add a ride. So I just went here, new pattern. I named it, oops, I named it ride. So we go to our ride symbols. The reason for separating everything out in its own patterns is so that you can have them come in at different times. Like, see, we have the drums going right here, and if we link to the drums, the ride would be going here. But say you wanted your ride to start a little bit later. Instead of like starting with the drums, you have it going by itself. And as always with the playlist, you can, you know, make it shorter. Each clip you can make them shorter. You can cut them, you know, in half like that, so you can just have half that pattern going. And that, you know, that works pretty well. I enjoy that feature a lot. You couldn't do that in a few versions ago of FL. You had to just make it its own pattern. Like if you just want to have 2 kick drums instead of 4, you'd have to go and make your own, but now you can just cut it in half, which is cool. So let's add a loop in here to add a little more depth. Just a good one. And I accidentally put it on the kick drum channel, kick drum playlist clip, so I'm going to cut that and put it in its own, name it loop. Cool, now we can put in its own. Or if you want it to come in, like, you know, when the lead comes in, you can move it there. As you see, I just moved it into Sound Mixer channel, so that gets it going. So there's a pretty basic little song there. It's only about a minute long, and it basically has taught you effects, the mixer, basic step sequencing, and the playlist. And with these, and the piano roll too, and with these 4 things, you're off to do whatever you like, pretty much. And then that's your building blocks to get started and explore everything else. Once you know these 4 things, you can start seeing what each, you know, individual thing in the playlist or the piano roll does. Like, you can try all the features in here, and, you know, it's just that, you know, basic foundation. And once you get that foundation down, then you can go about and make your own music and just explore the program. You need that basic knowledge. So I hope this little tutorial has you know, given you an idea of what the heck this program does. And if it does, then that's pretty awesome. Start making some music. If it doesn't, I'm sorry, I probably went a little too fast because I have, you know, habit of doing that. But I'll give you a little demonstration here before I go of, you know, something that I can do without knowing, you know, I don't know scales. Most music experience I've had is piano lessons, but here's just a little idea of what you can do with this program after using it for a little while. It's going to take a while to open. Close all these open windows I have. Alright, take care, guys.